Let's go, Confident Speaking community. I hope everyone is doing very well today at this point in time because I'm excited. I'm just excited about life, and it doesn't matter what's going on in and around this world. I know that God has been so gracious to me and blessed me and my family so well that it doesn't even matter. And I hope that everyone is continuing to smile through whatever it is that you may be experiencing, because always remember that things can always be worse. So keep a smile on your face. And I want to thank you for being here today. I never take your presence for granted. And I always appreciate you taking the time to spend the time here with us as we continue growing together here in the Confident Speaking community, because it's the culmination of all of our contributions that allow us all to continue to grow, to improve in ways we may not have expected, to gain insights from one another that we didn't even realize that we had to offer. So I just encourage all of you to continue joining, continue participating, share the space with your friends, people that you may know, so that they too can become a part of what it is that we're doing, because we're all growing together. And I just hope that you continue putting in the work so that you can see the results in your life that I know will take place when you apply the things that we discuss in here. There's a transformation that's just waiting to happen, but transformation doesn't happen unless there's some type of catalyst. Something has to be done in order for us to see the change and that transformation in our lives. And I'm hoping the best for you. I want the best for each and every one of you. And becoming a confident and effective communicator will open that door for you, because communication is at the center of everything we do in life. No matter what your career field is, no matter what your hobbies and interests are, we have to have the ability to communicate. And we want to be able to do it effectively so that we are able to have the type of relationships we want, the types of careers we want, the ability to create the type of wealth that you want in your family, for your family. And yes, communication is a part of all of that. And that's why we're here, so that we can become more confident and effective communicators. And with that said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and say hello to Mama B. How are you today?
Oh, I am fantastic, Tim Brown. I always look forward to this time. Saturdays, 11 a.m. Eastern is where you will find me at my kitchen table with a pad and a pencil and my phone and all the community people in the palm of my hand as the profile picture. So I am fine. I am glad to be here. I hope you had a good week, and I'm looking forward to the topic. And also, everyone, please make sure to thank you. By the way, I should just say thank you for posting this, sharing this space in your hallways, in the hallways, and your DMs, so you people can know that we are here learning how to be concise. Because being concise is more impactful than a lot of the rambling that I do. So I've been learning to be concise. So I'm learning to be impactful. So thank you, everybody, for being here. And oh, by the way, also tweetables. If anybody says anything that resonates with you and strikes for you, just tweet it in the little bubble there, so people can know. That creates engagement, and it creates visibility for the space. And thank you so much. And also, and I know Tim doesn't like when I do this, Tim has a thing. I will post the link in the DM, not in the DMs, in the chat, to where if you would like to show Tim some love, you can go to the Buy Me a Coffee. And I think he has Buy Me a Cookie or something. So send him a few cookies, because sometimes it's hard to be here talking for so many hours. He gets parched sometimes. So let's buy him cookies. Thank you. I'm done, Tim.
Thank you, Mama B. Always glad to have you here in the space with us as we all continue adding our value in our own way and doing the things that only we can do. So each and every one of you has something special that you bring to this community. And I just want to remind you of that. So get involved and get engaged. And again, thank you, Mama B. Welcome to the space. And Brenda, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for the honor. Good morning, Mama B. and good morning to the whole room. I hope everyone's having a great Saturday, and let's get with it.
Let's get with it. And you all know, most of you know that, I see most of the people that are in the space. I used to scroll up and down the window in the past, and I don't do that so much anymore because it can get distracting for me. But I, again, appreciate all of you being here and thank you for your time because you don't have to be here. And I hope that you decide to get involved and participate in what we're doing today. And what I want to say is I'm going to be more concise with what I share in the beginning today. So y'all can hold me to that. You can pull out your watches, and I've been fairly consistent that it's probably been around 20 minutes or so, maybe even 25 that it seems I speak in the beginning, but I'm going to say a little bit less because I want more time for you to share. And we're going to, and Mama B, Brenda, hold me to this, and let's make sure that we can do this transition at 12:30 or right around that. I want to transition to the skills lab so we can make sure we give time for the skills lab to continuously reinforce what we discuss and get that in. So around 12:30, we're going to transition to the skills lab. And before we continue, I want to take a pause for the cause. To our new listeners, I say welcome and thank you for joining today's Confident Speaking Space. Our mission? To help you become a more confident and effective communicator to transform the way you live, work, and play. We have 4 pillars to help you do that. 1. The 4 P's, which are pitch, pace, power, and pause, to speak more dynamically. 2. Conciseness, which helps you sound more organized and thoughtful when speaking. 3. Get comfortable being uncomfortable, so you never miss an opportunity because you're too afraid to try. And 4. Expand your comfort zone with intentional behaviors to develop new skills that will change your life. So be brave and request the mic. I invite you to simply introduce yourself, ask a question, or perhaps share your thoughts about the topic. Our goal is progress, not perfection, and we will support you every step of the way. If you want to stay connected, join our free community on X or visit our website at confidentspeaking.us. confidentspeaking.us, and subscribe to join private discussions for more personal support and additional resources. I hope to speak with you soon. Enjoy the show. And I mean every word of it. Get involved, participate, join us in the conversation because that's how you truly maximize the things you learn by actually putting it into practice. And thank you for all the speakers that are already on the stage. I'm going to share a couple of thoughts, and then we're going to open it up for comments and feedback, because I have some questions I'm going to post for you as well. But today we are discussing, is honesty what you really want? Is honesty what you really want? And I pose this question because I want you to really think about the words that you say. When someone is looking for a special person in their life, or you're trying to establish any type of relationship, one of the things on our list that we look for in a friend, in a spouse, in a relationship is honesty. And we say that very loosely, like a lot of words that we use. And I want you to begin to think about honesty a little more deeply and ask yourself, is that what you really want? What is honesty? Honesty is telling the truth and being straightforward when asked. And it's usually with relevant information. That's what it typically is. But as it pertains to honesty, when we say that we want someone to be honest with us, always remember that you need to have a baseline of understanding. It's imperative. Make sure you have a baseline of understanding. So when you tell someone that you want honesty from them to be friends or be in a relationship, take a moment and explain to them what that means. What does it really mean? Because it doesn't always mean the same thing to everyone that it means to you. So you need to give some clarification. I'm really encouraging you to get in the habit of explaining what these terms mean to you so that people aren't confused and that you aren't upset or frustrated when they don't fulfill the expectations that you have in your mind that you never clearly articulated or explained to them. So we're talking about honesty today. Now, a few misconceptions, a few potential risks, and then I'm going to share another point. Some of the misconceptions that we can have about honesty. One is that honesty means sharing everything, and that isn't true. Just because you're being honest doesn't mean that you've shared everything that there is to share. And sometimes we think we have all the information because someone said, well, I was honest. I'm being honest with you. And they give us some tidbits of what's going on that they understand or know about. But it doesn't mean that they're sharing everything. It also is a misconception that it will make everyone like you, because who doesn't appreciate an honest person? But that isn't the case. Remember, there's more to you than just your ability or willingness to be honest with people. There's a misconception that honesty is always appreciated. Not everyone has this misconception, but some people do. Well, I was being honest. And we feel like by being honest, everyone is going to accept it as golden. But know that some people want to complain. Some people have mindsets, attitudes, thoughts, and feelings that they don't want your honest opinion or perception about something that you may share with them. Sometimes they only want you to listen and not share what it is that you want to share. So it isn't always appreciated. Being honest isn't always easy. There are some circumstances where it can be very difficult to be honest with people because it may be hurtful. And we have to understand how to be honest appropriately because the truth can hurt. And remember that it comes with risks that have to be considered so that we are aware of the timing to be honest with someone, of the approach when we're going to be honest with someone. We have to think about the potential unintended consequences that can come along with our honesty that we offer to someone. So keep that in mind. Honesty isn't always easy. And we need to be mindful that when we expect someone to be honest with us, we have to realize that it isn't easy for them all the time either. So give people a break. Give them some grace if you realize that they weren't completely honest with you about something, because there may have been a struggle that they were working through to figure out the best way to share something with you honestly. So keep that in mind. And some people perceive or have this misconception that honesty means that you say whatever's on your mind. And that is not the case. Just because it's on your mind doesn't mean you need to say it, whether you believe it or not. It doesn't mean you need to say it. And some people will just feel like it's okay to just blurt out whatever they want to say. But it's more about truthful information when it's relevant and helpful, not just because it's on your mind and you're thinking it. I've heard people say, well, I'm just being honest. That's how I feel. And that's your opinion, and it's okay, but it isn't always appropriate. So it isn't about saying whatever is on your mind whenever you feel like you need to say it. And keep in mind that when we are reckless, because our honesty can be reckless, and we have to be careful not to be reckless with our honesty, and that brings risks. It brings the risks of avoidable hurt or conflict that we can create with people when we're honest in the wrong way, because you have to be tactful when you're honest with people. And sometimes people choose to be honest without an invitation. I don't need you to come tell me what you think about my clothes. I don't care. I didn't ask you what you thought about what I'm wearing, especially when it's something that's negative. So keep that in mind. Are you sharing your honest thoughts and opinions with people who didn't ask for it? That's reckless honesty, especially when it's something that could be hurtful to them. And remember that honesty without compassion is brutality. Honesty without compassion is brutality. So we need to make sure that we're honest the right way and not be reckless with it. And then overemphasizing our personal opinion about something. And we have to make sure that we don't confuse our subjective opinions with objective honesty. And just a quick example of that is you insisting that your way is the only right way to do something or the only right way to feel something. That's your honest opinion, but there's no objectivity in that. It's subjective based on the way you feel. And that's a risk. And that can hinder relationships that we have when that's our approach. And then there's the loss of trust that can happen when our honesty is reckless. And and not necessarily reckless in this sense, or when it's selective, when you're selective with your honesty, that's reckless honesty, choosing to be selective in situations where it isn't warranted. And you have to understand that if you choose to tell someone part of the story, it can potentially hurt your credibility in the future if they learn somewhere else that there was another part of the story that you probably should have told them, or at least in their minds, they feel as though you should have told them. So be careful. If you're going to be selective with your honesty, understand there could be consequences if someone finds out the rest of the story that you chose not to tell them for whatever reason. And then there's legal or professional matters that we may be a part of. We want to be careful with this. Don't just recklessly give your honest opinions and honest thoughts in these legal and professional environments. And I remember, and this really resonated with me, when I did some work with some attorneys. I worked in an ethics office, and our director, she was an attorney by trade. And what they always said, and we were working on a huge litigation, a union grievance that was going on. And the attorneys would always say, only respond to what they ask for. Never give them more than what they ask for. If they don't ask for the details, don't give the details. If they ask you if the sky is blue, you say yes. Don't tell them it's blue with hints of white clouds that are scattered thinly across the sky. Just say, yes, it's blue, and leave it at that. And that requires discernment and also the ability to have discretion. Because remember, I said earlier that being honest isn't about saying whatever's on your mind just to show that you're truthful and honest. You have to discern and use discretion when it's appropriate, because some scenarios may require you to hold back a little information, and you need to know the difference when that's important and when that really matters. Because in some legal and professional matters, you may be completely honest about something and get yourself in trouble, when at the end of the day, they might make a judgment call and say, yeah, what you just said to us opens the door for us to now file a claim against you. And it may not have even really been your fault. There may have been extenuating circumstances that you should not be held accountable for. But because of that environment, they may have the opportunity to and the ability to hold you accountable for something. And only because you chose to be honest and give all the information at that point. So use discernment and discretion to know when it's appropriate to share as much as you have. Now, the reason I asked the question, is honesty what you really want? Especially when we think about relationships. That's where it really shines. That's where people talk about honesty more than anywhere else as it pertains to our personal relationships. Do you want honesty or do you want transparency? Think about that. There's honesty and then there's transparency. And what transparency does is it reveals a more complete picture of what's going on. Because as a supervisor, I could tell you that you need to improve during a performance review that we're having. And that's being honest. You need to improve. But as a transparent supervisor, I may tell you that, you know what, you need to improve. We need to work on some things, because if you don't improve, I've been told that you may lose your job during the next review if things don't improve. That's transparency. But it was honest that you needed to improve with the initial explanation. So do you want honesty or do you want transparency in your relationships or in your environments that you're dealing with? If your spouse says, I'm going to hang out with my friends, and they're being honest, they're going to hang out with their friends. But the transparent spouse says, I'm going to hang out with my friends, and oh, by the way, there's going to be some additional people there from our past that we knew from school, from back in the day. And if you didn't know that, imagine finding out that this person from back in the day was an old snuggle buddy that they had, and you didn't realize they were going to be there. That makes a difference. So honesty versus transparency. So think about what it is that you're actually wanting and expecting from people. And this is why I go back to the beginning of how important it is to make sure you have a baseline of understanding with people, whether it's friends, coworkers, family members, your spouse, if you say you are hoping that someone is going to be honest with you, explain to them what honesty means to you. What does that really mean? So that they understand how to provide what you're expecting. Because if you don't establish that baseline of understanding, they're going to simply say you need to improve during the performance review and not tell you that your job is on the line because you didn't explain that you needed all the details. And this is why, for me personally, whenever I have conversations with people and they share information with me, they ask me a question, whatever it is the communication is, I dig. I ask questions. I don't let someone give me a vague comment, give me a vague response to something I ask, where they have the ability to simply come back and say, well, I told you, you needed to do better, and not get the extra information that's important. So think about that as you're listening to people speak to you, as you're engaging with people. Make sure that you understand the details of what's going on. Ask those extra questions. Don't worry about appearing to be over the top and digging too deeply, because if you're going to be a part of it, if you're going to be impacted by the potential outcome of that situation, you need to understand what your risk is. You need to understand the potential impact it can have on your life. If someone says, hey man, come ride with me, I want to go down the street really quickly. Go down the street and do what? When are we coming back? How far is it? Who else is going? Are we picking someone else up? These are things you need to know, because you don't want to end up in the car where someone goes and rob a bank and they leave you in there and you have no clue what was going on. So you need to ask questions to understand and make sure that you have transparency in your communications so that you're comfortable enough with the information that you've received to make sure that you can move forward comfortably, because you have enough information to understand what you need to understand. So I ask you, is honesty what you really want? Is it honesty or transparency? But you need to make sure you understand what you're looking for so that you're able to articulate to someone else what it is you need and expect in order to have the type of interactions and relationships that you're truly wanting to have. Now, with that said, what I have done is I've posted at the top. It's in the Chubble, the chat, and then it's also at the top. There are some questions here that I want you to think about, to ponder as we get ready to open this up and expand the conversation. The first question is, what do you think is more important in relationships, honesty or transparency, and why? Can you recall a time when honesty backfired? What could you have done differently? How can couples balance honesty with maintaining sensitivity toward each other's feelings? And the other question that you could choose from, just pick one. How do you decide if you will proactively share information with a friend or wait until asked? And those are some of the questions that I want to hear from you all about, just to get your perspectives. And there may be some great approaches that you have that can be really helpful to everyone else that's listening in the space. And with that said, as we get ready to begin, just a reminder, because we are working on our 4 Ps, because we are developing our conciseness, because we are expanding our comfort zones and getting comfortable being uncomfortable, we also use our timer. So we give 2 minutes to respond. And this just teaches you to organize your thoughts. If you need to, write it down. Write some bullet points down for yourself to help you stay on track and get used to the idea of refining your thoughts and becoming more organized before you decide to speak, because that allows you to be more impactful. It allows you to be more structured, and it also allows you to be more comfortable when you have a plan before you begin to speak. It makes a difference. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and open it up. And Mama B or Brenda, if you have any thoughts, by all means, you can share, jump in, and then we'll start going to the hands after that. So I saw Brenda and then Mama B, and all the hands just popped up right at the same time. So I'm going to have to figure out who was first here. Go ahead, Brenda.
Okay. Can I be heard? Thumbs up?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, okay, praise God. All right, so I have a story to share when honesty hurt me. I was sitting at the office trying to get some assistance, and at the time, I was given a card that had food stamps on it. And I said to the lady, I said, this is just not enough. My son, he just eats so much. He doesn't live with me, but he's always at my house. He's eating all my food. And she said, oh, your son doesn't live with you? And yeah, so that hurt me. And my son told me, my eldest son, he said, Mama, you talk too much. And my dad always told me that. He said, Bren, keep your damn mouth shut. And so, yes, honesty has hurt me many times in my life because I do talk too much. It's sad that everything has to be a secret. And it's sad that we have to hem and haw and scurry around things because no one wants honesty.
Yes, and a great example how being honest can be hurtful to people. And I would imagine all of us may have had some scenario where you can remember someone told you the honest truth and you're like, ooh, that hurt. And, Brenda, I'm glad that you continue to move forward and don't allow that to just be a hindrance, because sometimes people will say things to us that never leaves us if we don't understand and recognize the impact that it's having on our lives. And I know someone that's, 60, 70 years old in the fourth quarter of life, and they're still impacted by something someone said to them when they were a child, preteen. They're still affected by something someone said to them. So really be careful. Go ahead, Brenda. You're muted, Brenda, if you're speaking.
Oh, I've been affected by thousands of words and things and phrases, but I will say to you, and I've said to you many times, and I confess it in front of the whole world, I would like you to be completely honest with me, Tam. Absolutely. I'm here for it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you want me to be completely honest, or you want me to be transparent? And I want everyone, to really think about that when you ask for something. And I get what you're saying, Brenda, but I want to remind everyone to always think a little more deeply, go beneath the surface to understand what it is that you're saying, what you're asking for, and understand what that could potentially mean to someone else. Because I could just say, Brenda's doing a great job, but then there could be more details that can come along with that. So always keep in mind.
Those details.
I know. You shared with me. I knew what you meant, but it was a moment. It was a teachable moment that could be shared with everyone. Just how quickly we can step into saying something or asking for something without the details of what that actually looks like, what you're actually hoping for as a result of that. Mama B, go ahead.
Oh, yes. Oh, my goodness. Hey, Brenda, my goodness, good to fly with you, my love. When I think about honesty, or in this conversation with honesty, I always think about, how I used to be one of these people who say, well, I'm just being brutally honest. I'm really brutally honest, And I like what you say there, Tim. I'd say honesty without compassion is just brutality, because there shouldn't be brutality in honesty. This is what I believe. There shouldn't be brutality in honesty. It should just be honest and honest in love. I think that's the key. Be honest in love. But because many times we just, we hide behind being honest, and what we're doing is just really stabbing people or wounding people, and we just cleverly disguise that wounding that we're trying to do with under the cloak of, oh, I'm just being honest, when you really know that you just wanted to make them feel bad. So yeah, so brutally honest is something that I'm recovering from. Yeah, so I've learned to be honest in love. But when you ask the question, do we want transparency or honesty? It made me think about how I'm a Christian, right? And so I grew up with, oh, you have to be honest, tell the truth, don't lie, and that's what's ingrained in me, right? But now, when I look at life and I think, would I tell the truth if I was in danger? Like if I had a spouse who was abusive, would I tell the truth if they're standing right here and I know what that's gonna cause? Or does a child are their children expected to tell the truth if telling the truth means that their parents are gonna beat up on them? That's just the question I just have in my head. So I'm done speaking. Thank you, Tim.
Absolutely. And, to that point and to that question, one of the things that I mentioned where we were talking about legal or professional matters, but in any aspect of life, but I know the implications can potentially be higher and have more impact. Well, I won't even say that. In any scenario, when you think about it, there needs to be discernment and discretion because there's an appropriate time. There's an appropriate approach to do that. And if your life is in danger, then, I would say not. Definitely don't say something or do something that's going to potentially cause you harm. If making a comment or a statement to someone that will lead to your harm, that just would not be wise. And that's a situation where you have to discern to do what's in your best interest. This is self-preservation at that point. So always keep that in mind. Never put yourself at risk to tell someone something, no matter who it is. So I would and every situation is different. So I want to make sure by me saying that, and I'm not saying that we always have to weigh the situation. You always have to take time to understand the scenario because there's things that I won't know about a specific circumstance that people are dealing with. But yes, we have to keep ourselves safe. So let's go now over. So we've got Human McCoy. We also have, let's see, All About Music. Then David, Christelle, Grace, Poppy. And then that's our order now. And just a reminder, so there's two chimes, everyone. Remember, there's two chimes. The first chime means that there's 30 seconds left, and the second chime means that it's time to wrap up. But the first chime is you're going to get your thoughts together to get ready to land the plane or anchor your ship, or however you decide to do that to get toward the end. And the second one means it's time to finish. All right. So let's go to Human. How are you, sir? Welcome to the space.
Shalom, my brother Tim.
Shalom.
Happy Shabbos. Happy Saturday, everyone. And, when I think about this topic, Mama B, I really resonated with what you said about brutality. I used to say that when I was younger. I'm just brutally honest. And the older I get, I recognize to ask 3 questions. Is what I'm going to say necessary? Will it edify or build up others? And it is the thing that I want to say, the right time to say it. And I've found when I take the pause to think about those 3 things, it really helps. There's a time and a season for everything. We know that, right? A place for everything. And if a thing is in its perfect time and place, it's the best. So there is time to act quickly, and that's when it's for someone's righteousness or protection, right? And the other times I slow down And I ask those three questions. Is it necessary? Will it edify or build up? And is it the right time? That's what I wanted to share. I love the topic today. Thank you for bringing it.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And that's a great approach. Ask yourself, pause those three questions. Is it a good time? Is it necessary? And is there any benefit? And we have to really keep that in mind. And if you stop and pause for a moment to ask yourself those questions, or whatever other question you may feel like you need to help you not say something that isn't appropriate or isn't necessary in that moment, it will get easier and it will become a part of who you are and a part of what you do. And you will begin to realize that you will be more patient interacting with people. You will begin to listen more intently because in order to answer those questions that you have to have had listened effectively and attentively to what the people were saying before you chose to say something, or observing their behaviors if there was no verbal interaction prior to you wanting to speak. But it requires that attentiveness. But I would encourage you, think about those questions and any other question that will be helpful for you based on your current personality that you need to address before you decide to say something to someone that could be reckless honesty. And that painfully honest, it can sting when people just, and sometimes they don't even mean it in a bad way. It just hurts some people more than others. And remember that some people want you to be brutally honest. If it's ugly, they want you to say, "Man, that's ugly. I don't like that." But some people need you to say, "I think it would look better if you used a different color." And that's just how we are. And that's why it's important to understand each person as an individual and never assume that you can treat one person the same way that you treat the other, and that is going to be the same type of interaction, because we all have unique individual personalities that need to be understood so that we are engaging with them in a manner that's going to be effective for that particular relationship. So thanks again, Human.
You're welcome. And be lovingly, truthfully, transparently honest with me. If you know me or if you've heard my voice, anyone that speaks to me, that's what I would like. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's go now over to McCoy. McCoy, how are you? Welcome to the space today. Hopefully life
Thank
is
you.
great.
Thank you, Tim. Life is pretty good. Just doing a bunch of cleaning while the kids play. And, I'm going to try to reflect on a real world example with the third question you had of second question, how can you recall a time when honesty backfired? What could have been done differently? And, I'm going to reflect and I'm going to read back a quick text message just to see how things got started. So my sister-in-law texts me and my entire in-law message group to say, I am watching the inauguration. It's time to leave Texas. This is going to be a terrifying 4 years for minorities. And I didn't like that. And I had to tell her honestly. And I didn't like that for two reasons. I don't like someone telling me what to do with my life. And I don't like someone telling me what to do with my life in front of my entire in-law network, including my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, my brother-in-law, my other sister-in-law, my wife. You get the idea. And so I immediately back channeled to her and tried to explain to her, like, softly, like, my wife's at work right now. I don't want to get this conversation started in front of everybody while she's working and bring up any more stress. And she started laughing at me. I was trying to be honest. And the way that this backfired was that message group has not been active now since that day. And also, my sister in law, her birthday's coming up around Valentine's Day weekend. We were supposed to travel to go see her um, for Valentine's Day weekend. And I pulled out of the trip. I said, I'm not going. You can take the kids. Um, you know, there's obviously a disagreement that she started by trying to tell us what exactly we need to do with our life in front of your parents. And I don't agree with that. And I was being honest to my wife and telling her all of that. and that backfired because now my wife is not going to go, and my kids are not going to go see her. And I'm trying to figure out. Sorry for the dogs. Trying to figure out the best way to keep moving forward and repair that part of the relationship. Someone was very brutal with their honesty to me, and I immediately just said, that may be your opinion, but everybody's entitled to an opinion. And you can't really tell someone what to do with their life. And that's my honest feelings about that. So I appreciate the time to speak, Tim. I'm not always in here, but I do see the notifications, and I appreciate the community as well.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that, McCoy. And everyone has a different situation. Circumstances are different. But as I listened to what you shared, when you are being honest about something that has impacted you because you didn't ask to be put in that situation, in that circumstance that the sister-in-law created. And there comes a time where if I feel like I need to share something, because again, remember, you're discerning and you also are using discretion. And I'll focus on the idea of resolution to move forward because you can't change what's happened. I like to deal with solutions and how we can move forward. And if you care enough about changing it and fixing it, then you can try to have that conversation with her and talk through it and get some understand why she may have said what she said, why she felt it was okay to do that, and explain your position on that matter. But then at the end of the day, you, your wife, and your children have to live your lives for you. And sometimes that means other people have to be loved from a distance if they don't have the capacity to respect who you are or respect your desires and the way that you want to live your life. So I would just say you can try, because I'm going to try at least 3 times. If I feel like there's a rift or a disconnect between me and someone, I'm going to, or even not, if I even perceive the possibility of a disconnect, I'm going to try 3 times and give my sincere effort to try to resolve it. And if they don't show a willingness or a desire to resolve it and work with me, then I wash my hands of it and I move on. And I'm fine with that. And I have complete peace that if we don't speak anymore, that's fine, because I did what I was supposed to do. And I made sure that I took accountability for my behaviors and what was expected of me to try to make peace and being honest with your feelings. So that's what I would say to that. And I know you weren't necessarily asking for advice, but I just thought that's something to consider based on how I would look at it and how I would move forward, because I like resolution and I like to at least do my part in those types of situations. But I hope it gets resolved. And at the end of the day, remember that it's you and your wife have come together in the covenant. It's the two of you and your children. So you've got to do what's best for your family. Brenda, I see your hand, and then we'll go to All About Music after that.
Thank you, sir. Was it McCoy that was speaking?
Yes, it was.
Okay, so to you, sir, I love how you recognized yourself, how the initial action pretty much led to each action after that. So for me, that's what this whole confident speaking thing is about, is to look at a message like that and say, that is where we could take a step back and then like backtrack and then redo everything. But yeah, I'm so sorry that all led to such an uncomfortable dynamic right now. But best of luck moving forward. And I know if you had to do it all over again, I'll bet you would have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you, Brenda. Thank you for that. So let's go now over to All About Music. How are you today? All About Music? Oh, there you go. You are breaking up.
Great. Could you hear me now?
I hear you now. Yes, I hear you now.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Tim, for giving me the mic. This particular topic has resonated with myself very, very deeply. okay, to my core, because every time I am honest, it somehow backfire to me. But I'm the one is speaking is very important. The words we utilize with other people are very, very important because, like you just said, many people do misinterpret how we speak to one another. But respect also is very important. Let me put a perfect example. I serve my community in a nonprofit place, okay, Monday through Friday, free of charge. That's the way I give back to my.
Your, I think your connection keeps going in and out, and I'll hear part of what you're saying, and then it cuts off for a few seconds, and I want to be able to hear. No, it's okay. You don't have to apologize for it because the technology is probably out of your control. But what I
Yes, my connection here is terrible for some reason. I don't know why. I've been having that problem. And many of the times I cannot get on spaces or it continues to drop me for
right.
some reason.
Well,
More than anything, I wanted to say something to you because I am very honest. Last week, I happened to go to Nino's.
yeah, it cut off. It has cut off again. So I tell you what, I'm not sure
Uh-huh,
if you're using Wi-Fi or your cellular connection.
uh-huh.
If you're using Wi-Fi, try turning off Wi-Fi and use your cellular connection and see if that works. And what we'll do is I'll go to the next speaker and then we'll see if that settles down for you, and then we'll try it again in a moment. All right, because it keeps cutting off and we're missing what you're saying, and I want people to
Thank,
be able to get your value that you're adding.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Tim.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you.
I'll go ahead and DM you. Something I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, okay.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And if you want, if it wasn't personal or private,
No, it is. Actually, it is something
okay,
I want to say only to you.
okay,
Okay?
understood.
Thank
Okay,
you.
I'll
I
look for
appreciate
that. Thank you. So let's go now over to David. David, how are you, sir? Welcome to the space.
Hey Tim, I'm doing well, man. Thanks for asking. Haven't been here in a while. Good to be checking you out in your space. So thanks for continuing to show up, man. Consistency, right? It's been a
Absolutely.
while. Love the conversation and yeah, the Wi-Fi. My phone, if I turn on my Wi-Fi, regardless if I'm home or even out, I have problems with the connection. So I think that's been a common issue coming up lately on X. Um, so for me, the conversation is, honesty. Do people really want it? I think it really comes down to a couple things. Intention, first off, is what is my intention with the honesty, and then the second is permission. Is do you really have permission? So, and I'm going to go at this from a context of a business coach. I coach a lot of high producing real estate agents as well as local business owners. And, they're jumping on a call with me. It's a 30-minute call. They're paying a lot of money for that 30 minutes. And we just don't have a lot of time to fluff. And so I have that conversation up front, like about, hey, how do you, and again, it's up to them, it's not on me. But some of my clients, they like, dude, I just want to know. Tell me exactly the way it is. What do I need to do? What's not working? And we need to fix it. But but the other side of that, Tim, is this tact, right? There's all tact as well. And I've heard you use tact a few times. It's in how you say things to people. Okay, so I it's funny as I think about some of my conversations with people. Wow, that was nice little ringtone you got there. So is that 2 minutes? Is that what that is? Am I out of time, Tim?
No, you still have the 30 seconds left. It gives you
Oh, is
additional
that what it
30.
is?
Yeah,
Oh, cool. I haven't been here in a while. All right. Well, here, bottom line, man, understand the permission you have with people. And for me, listen, I want you to tell me the way it is. I don't want any fluff. I don't want bullshit. Just tell me the way it is. And that works. And I think the people that operate at the highest levels, the very successful people, Tim, that's what they're looking for as well. That's my belief. They don't want to waste any time. They don't want fluff. They want to know what's up. What can I do to fix this?
Mhm.
And they want to keep moving. Now, your wife, that's a different story. So, but I'm out of time, so I'm not going to get into that right now. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I love the intention, permission, and also with tact. And it is important to understand, especially in business, the different levels of communication or the types of communication you have with people at different levels of the organization. Some people, like David said, remember I said earlier, some people want you to tell them like it is. If you don't like it, no, I don't like that. That's ugly. And he wants you to just be honest like that. Where some people need you to say, if it was a different color, it would look a little better. But when you're dealing with people in business, some people need details. And there's a space that we did about that, about the different levels of business communication. And I would encourage you that if you weren't there, to go back and listen to it. Because when you think about the employees, you think about people on the management level, and then there's people on the executive level. And there's different types of information that you will share with those different groups. And if you go to an executive talking about it's taking 20 minutes to put together the widgets and who you had to call to get information, that will probably be the last conversation you have with them, because they want to understand, how are we going to establish a vision to move this organization forward? How are we going to establish the relationships and find the distributors that can help us produce our products with a higher gross profit margin? Those are the types of conversations they want to have. And we need to understand the difference with the executive versus the people that work for us versus our spouse and our children. There's different ways, and that's why discernment and discretion is important when we're trying to be honest with people in those conversations. You need to understand how, when, and what is required in those moments. It is essential. So great point, David. Thank you for bringing that up. So let's go now over to Christelle. Christelle, how are you today? You out walking the baby?
Hi. I'm actually about to change a diaper and take baby to the zoo. But happy Saturday, everyone. It's so great to be here. Hi, Brenda. Hi, Mama B. I don't know if he'll even let me talk the whole 2.5 minutes because he's making me give him a kiss, which I don't mind. So I'll do my best to say what I want to say. And just, one thing is that this is like a whole skill in itself, right? Trying to get your thoughts together while you have a 2-year-old running all over you. But one thing that has completely, I would say, like changed my life and my relationships is discernment with who to be honest with, and when to actually just decide it's not worth it, because given my history with this person and what I understand of them, I don't think that my honesty will actually be received in any sort of way that's productive. And so this is something that took me a long time to learn, because I used to be the type of person that was like, I'm just going to be honest and like say what I have to say. It's my truth. And, that is what it is. And they're going to have to just handle it or whatever. But what I noticed is that led to a lot more issues and a lot more stress and drama that just isn't worth it, frankly. Like, I'm at a point in my life where I don't need to be right. I don't need to say everything that's on my mind. I don't need to express every feeling and thought and emotion, especially if I know that the vessel is not doesn't have the capacity, right, to contain it. Oh, I'm about to change a diaper that doesn't need to be changed. I'm like, oh, you haven't actually used your diaper yet. That's not necessary. Just like sharing honest thoughts with people that, aren't in a place to hear it. So that's really all I want to say. Like, part of the discernment for me has been who I'm actually being honest with. And more importantly, having people in my life, even if it's just, 1, 2 people that I know have the capacity to handle my honesty, and not necessarily about them, but about the people that I really want to be honest about. And that's been huge for me. So thank you. I'm now being smacked in the face, so I'm going to go on mute. But I think my time is up anyway. Thanks a lot. Have a great Saturday, everyone.
Thank you for that, Christelle. And I love the point of knowing who to be honest with. And while we can be, and see, her statement just illustrates and highlights the depth, and it allows us to recognize the distinction between honesty and transparency as well. Because you can be honest with anyone. It's just a matter of what level of honesty, and are you choosing to be transparent? Some people you can't be transparent with, even though you can tell them the truth about something. There still may not be the transparency that you can provide, and you absolutely need to know the difference and understand who you can be honest with, or who you can be transparent with. And I'll say it that way because, and this takes me back to Mama B, your point. I think we should be honest with everyone. We should be honest with everyone, but you don't have to always be transparent. And that's the distinction, because you can be honest with a very simple answer. Yes, that hurt my feelings. Or now I'm drawing a blank on on being honest, but you can be honest about the circumstance without giving the details that put you at risk. Let's say it that way. You can be honest about the information or about your feelings without giving the details that put you at risk. So I'm going back, everyone. So anyone that heard me at the beginning, I'm making a special note, because I know sometimes people will hear something you said and they don't hear when you retract it and fix it. So I'm going back to fix my initial statement that you don't have to be honest with everyone. I'm now saying that we should be honest with everyone, but we be very discerning and utilize discretion so that we know when, why, and how to be transparent. Because it doesn't always require a lot of transparency, especially when it can be dangerous. So I wanted to go back and fix that. So thank you, Christelle, for that point. And when you realize you don't have to be right, that makes it a little easier to not have to share everything that's on our mind. And at the end of the day, that's one of the reasons we will tend to be honest with people all the time and just blurt out whatever's on our mind, because we feel like we're right and we need to prove our point, or we need to demonstrate our depth of knowledge or our expertise about something. And it just makes things go bad in a lot of circumstances. So kudos on that. Brenda, I saw your hand in there, Mama B.
So I will just repeat what you already said, Tam. Honesty is the act of telling the truth, while transparency is the act of open and sharing information without being asked. Both honesty and transparency are important for building trust.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And use that discernment and discretion so that you know the difference. Because even the Bible says that all things are acceptable, but not everything is beneficial. Think about that. Just because you have the ability to do it doesn't mean that it's going to be beneficial. So back to Human's point and the questions that he asks himself. Is this going to help? How is this going to be beneficial? So keep that in mind. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Mama B, go ahead.
It's going to be a quick one, and I know that some of the millennials in the space are going to be like, I can't believe Mama B said that. But yeah, it's a question in the context of relationships, right? When we talk about honesty, the young ones call it body count. Now, you get into a relationship, a new one, a relationship, do you discuss those things if somebody wants to know? So how many boyfriends have you had, or how many girlfriends have you had? Are you honest in that case? If you had a gang of boyfriends or girlfriends, like, so yeah, there it is. I said it. Go ahead, millennials in the DMs. You're gonna Mama B, what did you just say? Go ahead, Tim, I'm done.
And there's some questions that you don't want the answer to. You be careful. If you ask something, you may not want the truth. And if you aren't ready for the truth, if you can't handle the truth, don't ask the question. And yeah, that may be interesting how people follow up and respond to that. That is a question, and I just randomly see popping up more than it did in my time growing up. So yes, we shall see. But let's go now over to, so we're going to go to Grace, Poppy, Danash, Munene, and then Pam. And before we continue, before we go to Grace, I want to again thank you all for being here. And today we're discussing the question, is honesty what you really want? And there's a few questions posted in the chat and at the top of the space for you to respond to based on your experiences and how honesty versus transparency affect you in your life. And I want to encourage you again, because we've got another 30 minutes that we're going to be discussing the topic before we go into the skills lab. But I want you to get involved, get engaged, and not be afraid to come up, because we're here in this space, in this community, to become more confident and effective communicators. And in order to do that, to be better at anything, you have to do it. You have to do it. And I don't want you to be afraid to come up and speak. Even if you only say, hey, my name is John, and I just wanted to say hello. This is my first time speaking. That's enough, because we want progress, not perfection. And every step that you take to move forward gets you closer to your goal. And that's what we want for you. I want you to be able to live your best life. I want the absolute best for you. And that means taking steps and doing things that will be a little bit uncomfortable, that will expand your comfort zone. But when we do it, we get better. And your confidence grows as a result of a track record of successes. So coming up to simply say, hello, my name is John, and I just wanted to speak to everyone. That's progress, and that's a win, and we celebrate that. And we don't worry about mistakes. We actually encourage you to come make mistakes in here so that you figure out how to not make the same mistake somewhere else in life, because there may be something at stake later on that you don't need to make a mistake there that you could make here and avoid later on in life. So get involved, get engaged. Don't be afraid. And please, please, please stop telling yourself, I can do it later. I can do it next time, and running from the moment or from those opportunities, because you never know who's in here listening. You never know who may hold the keys to the next opportunity in your life. And sometimes people just simply need to hear you to know that you're the one. You may ask a question that someone says, I like the thought process behind that question. As simple as asking a question because you want help. That could be the key to someone saying, that's a special person. Let me reach out to them because I'm starting a new company and I need a vice president of customer engagement. And your question was what sparked them to reach out. So we just never know. And I just don't want you to miss an opportunity because you're afraid. Please don't miss a life-changing opportunity because you're afraid to try. We've got to try. And it gets easier the more we do it. And before we continue, we're going to take a pause for the calls. And when we come back, we're going to go over to Grace. Greetings to everyone here in today's Confident Speaking space. Your presence is greatly appreciated, and we would love to hear from you. Our goal is progress, not perfection. So please don't be afraid to request a mic. You're invited to share your thoughts as a speaker or in the chat. We're all growing together, and we're here to help you become a more confident and effective communicator in every aspect of your life. If you're enjoying the conversation and want to stay connected, you can join our free community on X for updates about future spaces. But don't forget to visit our website at confidentspeaking.us for additional resources and to continue your journey. Enjoy the rest of the show. We don't want to keep making the same mistakes all over again. So we're practicing so we can avoid that and improve and get better. So with that, let's go over to Grace. Grace, well, it looks like Grace got disconnected. So as we try to get Grace back up here, we'll go to Poppy and then we'll work on getting you back up here, Grace. And just so you know, we see those of you that are requesting. There are a few people requesting. We've got 5 people that are requesting to get on the mic. So what we'll do is if you have if you've shared and you don't feel like there's anything else you want to add right now, if you don't mind stepping down so we can give these others an opportunity. But just know that we're going to do the skills lab starting at 12:30. So you can always come back if you want to get involved and participate in the skills lab in a few minutes here. So thank you all again. And Poppy, oh, well, Grace is up. Grace, how are you? Welcome to the space.
You know, Poppy's got a very busy schedule. If he wants to go first, I'm happy with that. I did lose my mic, but you know, Poppy, you want to go first? I'm good with that.
No, thank you, Grace. I'll keep Chevery alive. Go ahead.
Bless your heart. I'm gonna take a big breath because you know when you have tech issues and you're trying to get back in and the spaces were full. So I'm gonna take a big breath and everybody take one with me. And I know you're cheering me on. Truth with love. Our response is our responsibility. What the most important topic is about honesty. And I remember the truth can make you angry or it can set you free. If it's the truth, Jesus said he was the truth, and that makes a lot of people angry to this day. And that's why they were trying to stone him. I used to teach my kids, is it kind? Is it true? Is it necessary? And then I turn out making it just really simple. Is it the kindest thing in the kindest way? Whether it's action or word. And we have to speak the truth from our heart. I was listening to Psalm 8 today, and I was only going to listen to the 8th, but I was doing things and it kept playing, and I was so glad it went to Psalm 15. Read Psalm 15, I challenge you, because it talks about speaking the truth from your heart. Isn't that what it all comes about, your intention? The thing that made me kind of upset my apple cart 30 years ago, I had grown up and like Mama B, tell the truth, and Brenda, tell the truth. But the Bible doesn't actually say in the 10 Commandments to tell the truth. What it says is, do not bear false witness against your neighbor. So see how the truth can be twisted? And sometimes the truth is to, you know, if they came to my door and said, are there any Jews there? I would say, you'll have to start with me. Because if I'm hiding Jews, I'm going to protect them with my life. So give the truth to whom the truth is due. That got me really thinking. And it took me, you know, we have to ponder these things and meditate on what is truth and what is noble and what is pure and what is right. And if you focus on the truth and the purity, you can spot a lie a mile away, 10 seconds away. Just don't listen to the people are trying to program us, channel us, control us by the media, the mediums. So the truth has set me free indeed. And yeah, you know, it's moderation, Tim, because we can talk too much, and there's good. There's good things about being a talker, and there's people that don't talk at all, and that's not good, and it's not bad. It's just different. And if we can learn to come to the middle and be concise and realize our words matter. And our response is our responsibility. And let's all speak the truth with love and set everybody free and bring God's kingdom to earth. Are you sure the timer hasn't gone off? I didn't hear a ringer.
It went off. It rang twice. Yeah, it rang twice.
Tim, did the tinger didn't go off? I'm sure that was more than 2 minutes. Come on.
Yeah, it did.
Anyway, I will land with this.
I guess Grace can't hear me. Grace.
She may not be able to hear you.
I love you. This is Grandma Grace.
Can you hear me?
Off.
Oh, God bless you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Grace.
Hear Tim, but Tim heard you.
Yes. Okay, so that's okay. But you hear me, right, Brenda? Okay, there we go. Got it. And I would say, yes, is it the kindest thing in the kindest way? That's a great way to frame that, Grace. And something to keep in mind. Is it the kindest thing in the kindest way? And when someone is being honest with you, I would encourage you to have this mindset, especially if it's someone that you know. Even if you don't, try to assume the best intentions. Try to assume the best intentions, because if you start from assuming they have the best intentions, then you give room for things to get fixed. If it came across the wrong way, you now will think about the potential way they could have meant well and not meant to offend you if you assume the best intentions. So we have to, again, get beyond just looking at the surface of what we see and hear in those experiences to try to understand what are some alternative perspectives to this, and when it's possible, because not everything has an alternative. There's some things that don't have alternatives, but when there is, at least explore to see if there's an alternative to what you may be thinking in your head. And if you choose to do that, it will minimize a lot of the conflict that you may experience with people. Assume the best intention and ask yourself, is it the kindest thing in the kindest way? Thank you for adding that, Grace. So let's go now over to Poppy. Yes, sir, Poppy. How are you today?
Oh, very blessed, Tim. Thanks for the opportunity. Brenda, Mama B, all the speakers and everyone in the space. This is such a wonderful topic. I ain't gonna sugarcoat it. Y'all know me. Honesty, such a lonely word, right? I tell you what, since COVID, I don't know what's going on, but some people can't handle the truth. I put that in the chat there. Can't handle the truth to save their life. Even if it was to save their life, they're so combative, so argumentative, quick to defend. Even if the truth was to say, hey, get out the way, there's a train. They're going to ask you why I got to get out the way. I got my rights, First Amendment, Second Amendment rights. We've gotten so far away from truth. I put another thing in the chat right there. I would rather any businessman, any one of my friends, if I tell you the truth and you're truly my friend, then we can sit down and reason about it and come to an amicable solution. But if you're not really my friend, I would really just rather tell you the truth so you can step off. And you might not hear that side of Pompey, but I'm just trying to be real with you, which I'm trying to be truthful right here, right? Our world has become so sensitive. We're all up in our feelings that even when somebody's telling you something to even advance you financially, what do you think? You so smart, you're going to tell me how to make money even though I'm poor and begging you for money. So defensive, right? So I like to take the gloves off every now and then because people can't handle the truth. I had to put that in there. I put it in the chat. But I appreciate the conversation. But yes, folks, let's get back to, you know what? If I really care about somebody, let me take what they're saying, like Tim was saying, from a place of good intentions. And if it's delivered in love, like Grace is saying, and this person is, then you should know that, hey, why are they telling me this? If they didn't care about me, like Poppy, I wouldn't tell you a thing. But if I care about you, I'm going to pull you over to the side, not in public, and I'm going to tell you the truth in love. Amen. Thank you, Tim.
Amen. And it matters. And we have to think about that. If someone is taking the time to share something with us, if you assume the best intentions and you at least listen to what they say and consider the possibility that it could remotely might be true and something that you need to think about, it will make a difference. It can help resolve and eliminate a lot of conflict before it ever happens. And sometimes you just have to know that you have to walk away. And as Poppy said, some people don't want the truth. Not everyone wants to hear the truth because they're stuck in this mindset and this perception about life and the way the world is. Remember some of those, like one of the risk of that reckless honesty where people will overemphasize their personal opinions about things. And it's about my way or the highway. And that's the only way that they see things. And we have to be really careful about that. But absolutely, Poppy, thank you for that, sir. And we have to stop being so sensitive about every little thing. Think about it. Some of the things that we let hurt our feelings can actually be valuable for us if we think about it and give it some consideration to understand what the merits may actually be in what someone has said. And that's why I always remain open to feedback. I will ask for feedback in some instances from people from time to time because I don't have all the answers. I don't know everything. I'm not a perfect person, and there's always room for me to grow and improve. So if you see something on my face, something hanging out my nose, please tell me. Don't let me walk around and be in a bad position where someone else sees me looking like that or doing something that could cause me to miss a life-changing opportunity because you're afraid to hurt my feelings. There's a way to do and say any and everything. And sometimes we have to be willing to take the risk because we have good intentions when we do it. And when you have good intentions, people will ultimately recognize it for the ones who want to change. And the last thing that I'll say about that is, if someone is your friend, if you're close to someone, you cannot expect to be able to claim someone as a good friend or someone in a close relationship with you if you have not had to go through some type of conflict. And I will take this thought to my grave. This might be one of those overemphasis on personal opinions that I'm doing here, but I just firmly believe that you can't truly know that someone is your friend the way that you think they are if you haven't gone through some type of conflict together, because conflict is what allows you to decipher and figure out who is truly there for you and with you. Because everybody is friends when everything is going well. When everyone is getting what they want, everybody is friends. But it's when you aren't getting your way, when you aren't getting what you feel like you deserved, how do you deal with it at that point? That's when you find out. So be honest with people. If you're doing it in love, and I've heard maybe 3 people say that it's about intention. Intention matters. Why are you saying it? And when you have the right intention, when you're doing it for the right reason, sometimes it's okay that their feelings get hurt because you know that there's no other way to do it. You've pondered and you've considered, how else can I handle this? And there's no easy way. Then you need to do it, because you could potentially be saving their life from something that you can't see. So great point, Poppy. Mama B, go ahead. And then we'll go to Danesh after Mama B.
Yes, Tim, I can't believe you used the word sensitive, because that is the word that I was going to use, but in it from a different place, point of view or perspective. And you said something about in relationship, there's always going to be conflict. And yeah, that's true. The truth is, if you don't have conflict in any relationship, then one of you is lying, right? One of you is not being honest, and they're always having to swallow themselves for peace sake. We're supposed to make peace, not keep the peace. And many of us are just keeping the peace, and not being honest with people in our relationships. And so, yeah, we find ourselves in trouble. But anyway, I wanted to say about sensitive, because we talk about being honest here. And I think for me, because as a child, I was teased and bullied relentlessly, and had nowhere to go with those emotions, because people would say, "Oh, you're just being so sensitive. You're being so sensitive." And once I got to be an adult, I realized that no, actually, I was not the one who had to be fixed because I was sensitive. It had nothing to do with sensitive, but everything to do with insensitivity. Those people who were bullying me under the guise of they're just joking, were the ones that needed to fix their insensitivity. So many times in life, generally, you hear people talk about how people are sensitive. I think what needs to be fixed is insensitivity. Yeah, I'm done speaking. Thank you, Tim.
Yes, there is that. Remember, there's always another side to it. And those people are probably being insensitive in those moments. And if they feel like someone should be labeled as sensitive, they've probably shared an honest opinion about someone that was not solicited, that wasn't invited, and it probably was not tactful when they shared it. So great point, Mama B. Great point. So let's go now over to Danesh. Danesh, how are you today, sir? How many?
Good evening to everyone. Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me clear, loud and clear and everything?
Yes, sir. We can
Yes,
hear you. We can hear you.
I got a heart from Brenda and thumbs up, everything. So yeah, I think everything I could say is mentioned before, but I still say it because usually I give it some notes and everything. So first of all, there is no such thing as truth without knowing the person and without knowing the context. To know the person, know the context, because that's what makes the decision even possible. If someone is standing on the top of a building and asks, "Am I a terrible person?" you will likely not say, "Yes, you are." because that guy that guy will jump. And if you have a friend who is really a terrible person, you may say, okay, yes you are, but here's how to change that. So I think truth can be gift, truth can be a lifesaver, truth can be help, truth can be correction, and in every situation there are different rules. So if for example, if it's a gift, then treat it like a gift. You don't give it a gift just because you want to give. You give it because the other person will be happy about it. So then the rules are don't hurt, don't say negative things, stay always joyful and positive, and give a gift. But if there's a life-saving situation, like the person is asking, can I open this door? And you say no. Why are you saying no? Because you don't want him to, or because there's a bear on the other side? So if there's a bear, it's a life-saving situation. And even if it hurts, you must say, no, please don't open the door. It's better if you don't. So in this case, you don't say silent. It's not an option. And also you try not to do damage, but even if you do damage, you just say the truth. And the correction case, it's curious because then you have to change. Then you have to check if the person is strong enough for the truth. That's the third option. Because if he's not strong enough, then maybe it's not worth telling the truth. Yeah, that was a short 2 minutes. So I think there's more notes than speaking. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Daynash. And it brings into focus understanding the circumstances where we have to discern and make sure we've used the appropriate discretion in those moments, because you definitely don't want to tell the person standing on the top of the building that they're a bad person. That would not be very good discernment in that situation. And also knowing the person. We have to know the individuals. How does this person respond to certain types of feedback, certain types of information? Some people you just know. You can't tell them things because it may be crushing for them. And you have to understand the difference. So thank you for sharing that anyway, Daynash, even though you felt like it had been shared before. Because again, like I tell you, you always bring a different perspective. And everyone to keep in mind that if someone has shared a thought that you feel is similar to what you were going to share, your perspective is going to be different. Your experience that is related to that thought is going to be different. And then other people may not have heard what the previous person said. So share your thought, because you never know. And people may connect with you a different way than they connected with the previous speakers. So share it. Don't not speak because you feel like someone already said what you were going to say. So with that, let's go over now to, we're going to go over to Munene. Munene, how are you?
Hello, Mr. Tim. Hello, everyone.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well. It's always a pleasure to be here. Yeah, and for me, I would say that it was interesting when you explain the difference between honesty and transparency. I think for me, both honesty and transparency are important, and they are mutually inclusive. And don't be honest to me if you're not going to be transparency. I think honesty without transparency just creates friction. And think about this, Mr. Tim. You mentioned about a scenario in a workplace, a performance review. Imagine you get told you need to improve, which is honesty. But behind the scene, the managers have already concluded to fire you. You can imagine that. It does not do any good. And I would also say that you're right when you said sometimes honesty can cause harm than good. But in my own opinion, I think the only time when honesty never hurt is when you are directing it to yourself, being honest about how you feel and everything. Yeah, and about sharing information, I choose to share what people need or what people ask. And I think that might take Mr. Tim. Thank you so much for the mic.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that, for having, a slightly different take on it. And this is why a baseline of understanding is so important. And I embrace the fact that people may use a word that has one meaning in the dictionary and they perceive it differently, because words in the dictionary change. They change the meanings of words based on what society is doing or based on goals and objectives that they may have and what they wanted to reference. I've seen some words change. And through in the last few years, there's some things that have changed because there was specific intent, things they wanted to accomplish. So I like to ask and understand, what does that mean to you? If I'm speaking with someone who doesn't articulate those thoughts, or if I know that it's a word or an idea that could be ambiguous and can be seen from different perspectives, I will take the initiative and ask, well, what does that mean to you? When you say this, what do you mean? So that I can be on the same page and you don't get caught up in these time wasting debates when you're comparing apples and oranges instead of making sure that you're both actually talking about grapes. And people realize, they come back after 20 minutes of debate and realize, well, you know what, we're actually saying the same thing, but you just went about it in different ways because there was no baseline of understanding, no foundational concept of what you were actually trying to understand or decide. So thank you for sharing that, Munene. And yes, we have to, again, what's most important or what's most appropriate for the moment, because it can vary depending on who we're talking to and what's at stake when we're having those conversations, when we're deciding, are we going to be honest or are we going to take it a step further and be transparent? Because some people don't need the transparency. Some people aren't ready for the transparency, but you can be honest without hurting someone's feelings when you learn to discern and use discretion appropriately. So let's go now over to Pam. So we're going to go to Pam, K9, Ali, Madev, and then Kim. How are
Hi,
you,
Tim.
Pam?
Hi, Tim. Thanks for giving me the mic. I'm Mama Bear and Brenda, my little friend Ingrid down there. I have several life experiences where people being honest with me has saved my life. I'll only speak on this recent one, which happened about a year and a half ago. I was a victim of January 6th, and I was enjoying that. And I went to see my therapist, though, because being honest with myself has always been the big problem. And people would try to help me, and I wouldn't listen, So I went to see this therapist, and I'm playing like this victim. And he looked me right in the eye and says, "Miss Hemphill, let's get honest. Let's get honest with yourself. Come on. You're not a victim. You were a volunteer." And I left that office that day saying, I'm not going back to see that therapist. But that night, I did some introspection and some writing and praying. And I said, he's right. I'm not a victim of that day. I was a volunteer. And it opened up a big door for me that I'm not sure, even to this day, if I made the right decision. But I do sleep at night. I feel better inside for being honest with myself and being honest with others. And all I can share is my experience and what happened to me. There's so many people that hate me for being honest with myself and sharing how I believe that I was not a victim that day on January 6th. But I have to live with me. I don't have to live with anybody else. But I just wanted to share that and say thank you so much for having this space. And I need to come back more because, as you see, I'm not a speaker, even though I've been on a lot of interviews. But I always still get nervous around peers being transparent and open with everybody because I get a lot of terrible feedback sometimes. But anyway, thank you so much.
Absolutely. And thank you. And I love that you took that moment where the honesty that you got from the therapist was painful, because honesty isn't always comfortable and it can shake us. But when we take time to listen and consider, and I encourage everyone, when someone says something to you, a professional, a friend, it may even be a stranger. At least ponder what they're saying to see if there's any remote possibility there's some validity or something for you to think about and give consideration to, because it there very well could be. And it can hurt when people say things to you that you don't feel is who you are. It stings. But at the end of the day, they're seeing something for a reason. And it isn't always true what they say, but you need to at least, well, I would encourage you to at least take a moment to ponder it. And if you know in your heart and you can comfortably walk away and say, nah, that doesn't apply to me, then you can hit delete and move on with no bad feelings about it. That's just their opinion. And someone else's opinion about you is none of your business, especially when it's negative with no merit. Negative with no merit. It's not your business. So thank you for that. So we'll go to Brenda and then Mama B. And then after that, we'll go to K9.
Pam, I know your story and my heart goes out to you. And I'm sure that you did what your heart was led to do. And Tim, it's 12:30, sir.
And you know what? I knew that's what you were going to say, Brenda. I looked over at the clock as soon as you started speaking. I said, it's 12:31. Brenda's about to say it's time to transition to the skills lab. So thank you for that, for keeping us on track. And what we'll do is we will go to Mama B, and then we're going to open this up. We're going to open the lab up. And I know the hands that are up now, you wanted to talk about the topic. But I want us to transition because I want to get to a place where we really make this thing work the way it's supposed to be working and get it smooth. And what this is going to do, it teaches us to set structure in our lives and everything that we do and get comfortable walking in that structure and doing the things that we're trying to do. And that will allow you to be able to accomplish goals more efficiently and more effectively, and a lot of times faster when we do that. So we're going to go to Mama B, and then I'm going to let me see. Hold on one sec. Let's see. Well, what I would do, because Kim, K9, Ali, and Madeo were already up here, we're going to let them share what they had to share, and then after that, the next speakers will be people doing the skills lab. We'll do it that way for fairness. All right. So Mama B, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Tim. Thank you, Brenda, for reminding us. Yeah, Pam, my friend, I really appreciate your share. I appreciate your share. In the space, we're talking mostly about being honest with other people, but that's this perspective of being honest with ourselves is really so powerful. Also, Puppy, I think it's Puppy. Yeah, Puppy posted a scripture in the channel there. In the chat, you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. And oftentimes we don't apply that setting free to ourselves, that the truth about ourselves will, knowing that truth and accepting that truth does set us free. So thank you, Pam, for sharing that perspective. I'm done. Thank you, Tim.
Absolutely. It's an important perspective. We have to be able to accept the truth and handle it and being honest with ourselves. So thank you both. And I want to point out how when we're sharing, when we're speaking, when we're communicating with people, this is a great example that really resonated with me. How always remember that if you're speaking to more than one person, those individuals may hear something differently. And of everything you say, everyone is going to grab something that resonates with them, that stands out. And when I heard what Mama B just said, in my mind, I'm just thinking, I think my perspective or what resonated with me was slightly different than what Mama B shared. And we just have to always remember, everyone won't hear the same thing. So don't get upset if someone maybe misses the highlight of what you shared. I had to tell someone at one time that just because you're excited about something doesn't mean other people are going to be excited about it as well. And we can't expect that of them, and don't allow that to hurt our feelings. But there's going to be different perspectives, different walks of life, and different ways that people perceive the things that we see and hear. So just always keep that in mind as you think about becoming a more confident and effective communicator. It won't always land the way that you want it to land with everyone, but as long as they got something, and then if they misunderstood, then you have the opportunity to clarify if needed. So thank you again, Mama B. So we're going to go to K9, Ali, Madev, Kim, and then after Kim, we're gonna do the skills labs, the challenges. So K9, how are you today?
Fantastic, Tim. Thank you for inviting me to your room. I want to say hello, to Brenda, my good friend, and Mama B, as well as, the rest of the audience. Actually, it's all about feeling. I just catch on that. And that's one of the many things, I talk in my spaces. And it's about feeling. And I tell people, don't bring, scriptures or Bible or geopolitics, because between both of them, because it's so complex, they bring, division. And I try to create, unification, right? And I tell them, don't look any farther, because God is only on your heart. All the answers, you find it right there. It's just, you need to wake that personal relationship that you have, with Him. And when you energize it from your heart, your mental process is enlightened. And also your soul, feel it. So it's a Trinity, okay? It applies to divine Trinity. It's one of the many God gifts, we have. So sometimes, people hate me because I say that, and I deprive them, to get, the scriptures of the Bible. And it's not because I don't love God. I dearly love God. It's the way you conducting yourself, at all times. The way you actually share, and reciprocate the love, to one another. That's how I see it. Thank you, Tim, once more. And thank you, all of you, for letting me speak, with you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And and what I take from that is being honest with your convictions within yourself and speaking what's in your heart. And sometimes you have to be honest for yourself in order to make sure people understand who you are and what position they should receive you from, how they can perceive you. And that's a moment of honesty that we need to have at times to figure out, who am I? And we have to demonstrate ourselves or present ourselves honestly to people so that they understand and that they know what to expect from us, as long as we're consistent. And we definitely want to make sure that our character is consistent, that we aren't a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde or Miss Hyde type of person where people never know what they're going to get when you show up. That can be very confusing, and it can make it very difficult for someone to trust you. And when you are, quote unquote, being honest with them, they aren't sure if it's Jekyll or Hyde that's speaking. So something to keep in mind. But thank you, K9, for being here. And thank you for sharing that. So let's go over to Ali. Ali, how are you today? Hopefully you're doing well.
Hi, I'm so good. How are you today?
Fantastic.
Yay! Okay, I want to go all the way back to when Mama B brought up the millennial cringe question about body count and talking about uncomfortable questions within relationships. I love talking about sexual health. I'm trained to talk about it, and it's one of my favorite things to speak about. So I latched on to this immediately, and I wrote in the chat thingy that body count is such a silly construct, but in asking, how do we bring up these uncomfortable questions, and do we navigate that with transparency, vulnerability, blah blah blah. I just want to encourage everyone in the room, have those uncomfortable questions. And if you see what I wrote, I said, we, instead of just asking, honing in on the idea of body count, talk about safe sex practices. When's the last time you got tested? How are you navigating sex as a human being and an emotional person? Evolve that. And there can be transparency and vulnerability and honesty within that. And just encouraging you on your day-to-day within your intimate relationships, and even your platonic relationships, to face those uncomfortable questions, kind of like body count, but it can be anything else. And that's just my encouragement. Anytime I hear about sexual talk stuff, I'm like, yes, this is my time to talk and encourage people. So this is my time. I took it. I did my thing. Yay, I did what I was supposed to do. Okay, that's all I want to say. Also, like Tim said, if you are looking for somebody, like, he said, take a mic. Child, I took that mic, okay? Now, if you need somebody to be talking about things, baby, your girl is ready to be hired, okay? I have affordable rates. Come slide in my DMs. I'm also a graphic designer and also, all those things. So thank you, bye.
Thank you, Ali. Yeah, I anticipated that there might be at least one follow-up thought about what you shared, Mama B, and Ali brought it to the forefront for us. So thank you for sharing that. And honesty, it has different layers, the different scenarios and circumstances you may be confronted with. And you have to have the discernment and the discretion to understand how to implement your honesty. Because remember, honesty can be reckless. It can be used recklessly. So we need to understand what's going to be most impactful. And back to what Human said, asking yourself those 3 questions. Is this necessary? Is it helpful? And is this the right time to say what you're going to say? Because it may be no for all of those. And we just have to think about that. Get beyond the surface, get beyond the emotions that make us want to just fire off our thoughts and ideas with no regard for how it may impact the people who are listening. We have to get past that. And that's why this question is on the table. Is honesty what you really want? And also making sure that you are positioning yourself to receive what you actually are hoping from people, what you're hoping to get from people. Because to say I want someone in my life that's going to be honest with me, that leaves too much on the table. Because remember our example earlier, how a supervisor, an honest supervisor told the employee during a performance review that you need to improve. But the transparent supervisor says that if you don't improve, you may lose your job. There's a difference. So in those relationships, really think about that. What are you asking for? What do you really need? What do you want? And you need to make sure that you articulate clearly to them what it is you are hoping for and expecting. Because if you don't give them a clear picture of what you're hoping for, how are they going to be able to provide it or fulfill it? And it's totally unfair to you and them for you to have an expectation of something happening that you never explained, because everyone is different. And imagine if they do for you what they did for the last person they were in a relationship with. And now in your mind, you're wondering, I never said I like this. Why are you doing this for me? And they tell you, well, that's what the previous person said. And you told me to figure it out. So I leaned on my past experience. And now there's a conflict because you chose not to be upfront and articulate what you needed. And that's part of being honest versus transparent. So make sure you know what you want and be clear about that. So there's a baseline of understanding in your interactions with people. So let's go now over to, that was just Ali, then so Madev and Kim, and then we're going to get into the challenges. And I think that's perfect timing too, because Ingrid was going to do the challenge the last time and we ran out of time. So perfect. So let's go ahead now to Madev. How are you, Madev? Madev is blazing trails out here, everyone. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, fantastic, Tim. How are you doing?
Fantastic, fantastic.
Man, so glad to be here again. I see Mama B, Brenda, Ingrid. It feels good to be here again. So I really love the topic here, and when I saw it yesterday, I had to even set an alarm apart from a reminder because no way I'm missing this topic. So yeah, honesty.
I think your microphone may be covered, Madev.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, so I said honesty. I looked up the meaning of honesty. The quality of being truthful, sincere, and having integrity. Right. So I'm going to just share a quick experience when I had this event. I was going to go for a public speaking event. So I had to take a break at work. It was what I could probably just ignore. and not work on those days. But I just had this thought of, why not just be honest with my boss and tell him I'm not going to be like around during that period of time and all of that. I did speak to him, and all and behold, the truth did set me free, right? So I just felt that moment actually gave me that shows me that I really want like honest people around me. Like, just be sincere. Have this sort of integrity that I can say, if you do this, I do this. But it can't always come off as good, right? Because some people can be honest with you and you take it the other way around. But I feel if you can value honest people in your life, it's going to go a long way. Because for me personally, when I do something wrong and I do not know, and someone like comes up to me, I'm like, I did not actually like what you did. I love it, to be honest, here, because it just gives me the sense of, if I do you wrong and you can come up to my face and tell me that you did this, you just been honest with me rather than, keeping it within yourself and just piling it up and stuff like that. So my answer to the question is honesty what you really want. Yes, it is. So yeah, thank you, Tay. I'm glad to be here again. Yeah, I'm done. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, sir. And I will pose this thought for you. When we think about, and I heard the definition you said about honesty referring to someone telling the truth about something. I didn't write it down, but it was about telling the truth. And I want to remind everyone, or bring to everyone's attention, just in case you didn't hear the beginning, when we talked about the idea of transparency, where transparency gives you that additional information that provides that clarity as to what's really going on. It gives you a bigger scope of the circumstances, where honesty is like, you ask someone, do you like me? And they say, yes, I like you. But then in your mind, you're thinking, do you like me as we can go on a date and maybe get married one day? But they were honest in saying that, yes, I like you. But the transparency of their liking you is that I like you, and we can have conversations, and I like you enough to talk, when we see each other, but that's it. I don't want to go on a date. I don't want to get married. I don't want anything else. And that's the difference with honesty and transparency. And just be mindful of what it is that you want when we say things to people. Make sure you understand what you're hoping for so you can express that clearly enough for them. And this topic came up because I know a lot of people, when they have this wish list of that special person in their life or choosing a friend, honesty is always near the top of the list. It's one of the top two in pretty much every conversation that I've heard someone give a list. And we need to make sure we understand what honesty means and what the difference may be between someone being honest and someone being transparent. I consider myself to be a transparent person because I will give you details that you didn't ask for, because I feel and I know that gives you the opportunity to make a more informed decision, and it gives you clarity to better understand who I am and why I may be doing or saying some of the things that I'm doing, so that you don't have to get confused and that you don't walk away wondering what I meant or trying to figure out the why. Because I understand how important the why is when something is said or when something is done. So great point, Medell, but I'm glad you enjoy honesty, because we definitely want to have that for sure. And keep doing what you're doing, sir. Medell is just speaking all over the place, all these events, and just doing his thing. So kudos to you, sir. So we're going to go to Kim, and then we'll go to, it looks like Ingrid may have had to leave. But then the next person we're going to do a challenge. Kim, how are you?
Thank you, Tim. I'm very privileged to be part of the speakers here. Thank you for fitting me in. I will be brief. I think that there's a very strong correlation between telling the truth and trust. And I've had the great privilege to work for a very senior CEO in a South African company. And it was on the back, I think, of a lot of trust over very difficult times that I managed to tell him the truth unfiltered at any point. So when it was people, because he was often on television, people would say, "What a wonderful job you did." They would go to him and congratulate him. And then there was what the company called the Kim walk, where I would walk with him and I would tell him, "That was a terrible thing to say. Your facial expression here was wrong. No, you couldn't have said that." And he took that with such, without any opposition, because he knew that my heart was in the right place and I'd wanted him to always do very well. And but that kind of trust and ability to speak honestly is built. You have to earn it often. And I think my mistake, and I'm reflecting on it this year, is that I've often volunteered the truth when people haven't asked me for it or aren't ready for it. And I think there's an arrogance, that I recognize within myself, that I tell people the truth and they've never asked for it. And I'm going to reflect on that. I think, just as I close, the thing I also have realized is that sometimes people don't want to know the truth. Perfect time to stop. Thank you, Tim. I look forward to the rest
No,
of your
go
session.
ahead and finish the thought. Yeah, it's 2 chimes, everyone. It's 2 chimes. Go ahead and
No,
summarize.
I think I'm done. I think it's just understanding the link between trust and truth. Also being humble to wait for people to ask you for your opinion before you venture it. I tend to just venture into uncharted waters, and then I'm surprised that my comments are unwelcome. So truth is a learning exercise. Thank you, Tim.
Absolutely.
And Brenda.
Thank you for that. And I'm glad you finished it, because you brought it all together in that last few seconds. And I love the idea of there being a Kim walk, and people know that there's a Kim walk. And what that shows is that you have been so consistent, and that you have had the type of character that people respect. And they know that if they get the Kim walk, it probably won't be the most fun walk that they've had, but they know it's going to be a sincere walk that's going to add value for them, and it's going to be beneficial, even though it hurts, potentially. So I love that. And that says a lot about you, that they gave that conversation with you a name in that office, the Kim walk. And I also appreciate that you did the self-reflection and thinking about how that could be arrogance. And for some people, it could be arrogance. For others, it could be something else. But it all depends on what you're doing. Why are you doing it? And you have to understand your intention. And when you recognize your intention, you can identify whether or not it's arrogance, that you are giving this unsolicited honesty to people. And it comes down to intention, because 2 people can do the exact same thing, and one person can be totally wrong because their intention is in the wrong place when they did it. The motive was wrong. So that's awesome, Kim. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to remember that, so people get to go on the Kim walk. So let's go ahead now. Oh, Brenda, go ahead. And then Ingrid's going to let Ingrid do the first challenge. And then I guess I see David's hand as well for the next one. Brenda, go ahead.
Tim, as a mother, we often give unsolicited advice. And in your job, clearly you had to do that. I know in my job, I had to do it. So it just comes with the territory. And I love that you're reflecting back on it, because so am I. Awesome.
Absolutely. And sometimes we have to. That's unsolicited. But when we learn to discern how to do it, and then we utilize discretion, and we take time to understand the people that we're interacting with, we figure out how to do things in an appropriate manner so that it isn't hurtful. Well, it may still hurt, but we do it in a way that is productive. So when they take time to think about it, they can use it for their benefit, and not just to simply be upset about something that may be truth for them, but then it isn't the truth that they want at that time because they aren't ready for it. So let's go. So Ingrid, so are you ready? I know we had you on the list to do the challenge.
Well, if I remember correctly, I think I did do a challenge last time around. When I thought it was about Ingrid.
Oh, you know what? You're right. You're absolutely right. So I totally blew that. Well,
Yes.
I tell you what then. So you want to do another one then, since we are going to
Yes,
do the
we might
skills
as
labs?
well.
Yes,
We might
yes.
as well get these butterflies out of the way. You know what I mean?
There we go. There we go. So what I'm going to give you, Ingrid, then. So your challenge, and I'm going to do a question for you, Ingrid, today instead of just a random topic. So your question that I'm going to ask you is, what makes Ingrid special? What makes Ingrid special?
What makes Ingrid special? Okay. Ingrid, not to sound mushy, but Ingrid tends to be open, loves making friends, at times has to learn how to be more diplomatic. But once I get to know people, I learn from them. What makes me special is because I love humans, all kinds, and I learn from them. And what makes me special is being able to understand by putting myself in their shoes and get to know them and find a way where I could sort of have some sort of camaraderie and make them feel comfortable. And by them feeling comfortable makes me special. Thank you.
Look at that. Look at the timing of that. Ingrid, how do you feel about the response? What's your thoughts?
Wow, it's hard sometimes speaking about yourself. And a lot of times people feel like, it's not good to kind of, always tap yourself on your shoulders, but you should be able to compliment and see the good that you have that's within you and share it with others. And hopefully the best of them comes out. And again, my thing is being better humans. I mean, that's the bottom line, because we're all people. We all come with different things. And it's nice when we could be understanding for others as well. So yes, I felt like it was good. It felt comfortable. I felt comfortable speaking about me.
Nice.
So yes, I like the topic you picked for me, Tim. I needed that.
There we go. And sometimes we do. And that's a topic that can be very difficult for people to speak about, is ourselves. In our minds, we feel like it's arrogance to say anything nice about ourselves, to recognize and acknowledge our greatness or share that with other people. And that isn't the case. It's okay that you know that you're good at what you do. It's okay that you know you're a great person. And that if you believe it and you're doing the things that demonstrate what a great person could look like, then own it. Don't be ashamed of it. Don't be afraid of it, and be willing to let people know. So I love that. But I'll go to Mama B for some feedback, and then I'll share some thoughts if no one else wants to share any feedback with you. Go ahead, Mama B.
Yes, Ingrid. When you started to speak, I could see that you were struggling to say what makes you special. And I thought, yeah, isn't it interesting how we always have hiccups when it comes to speaking about ourselves? And then you broke through and started to speak. And I thought, what makes what Ingrid is saying so comfortable to listen to? And I thought, it is the tone. You struck a perfect tone to answer a question that could have come across arrogant because of just how your tone was. Your tone sounded, you were speaking as a matter of fact about yourself, but in such a tone that did not cause a barrier to our hearing, which is what usually we do when we think we are communicating. We're just stringing words together, and yet we are causing people to have barriers to our hearing. Maybe they feel attacked, you, and all that stuff. So then they become defensive. That's a barrier to their hearing that we create when we talk like that. But with you, you did not create a barrier to my hearing, at least, because you did not come across arrogant, you were able to say exactly stuff about yourself, which is what we should all learn to be able to be comfortable with. But the tone is what made the big difference. And I heard you. I heard it. I heard your tone, and I was able to receive everything you said about yourself, even though that's something that we might find difficult because we think, oh, some people are going to think I'm being arrogant. But no, in your tone, you were not being arrogant. So I just wanted to say that the tone means a lot. It takes us a long way. I'm done.
Absolutely. Any thoughts to that, Ingrid?
Thanks, Mother B. I mean, it is, tone does matter, right? Because you want the person to feel comfortable and you don't want to be arrogant and you don't want to be conceited. But at the same token, you want to be able to express yourself and to be taken in a positive way, because that's the whole point. And yes, thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Anyone else want to share some feedback? Is that why your hand is up, Grace, for feedback? Okay, so I will say, Ingrid, I agree with Mama B. I totally agree. Your pace was good. Once you took a moment, you paused, and I will note that.
I
Hold
actually,
on, Grace. I agree with Mama B. I totally agree. Wait a minute. Okay, so I will say that I agree with Mama B, and I will note that in the beginning, you paused and you gave yourself a moment to think about it, and you didn't just jump right into the response and use your time trying to think and force yourself into sharing thoughts about yourself. You gave yourself a moment to think, and it's okay to think when people ask us questions, whether it's here in the space, whether it's on your job, whether it's in a meeting, at an interview. It's okay to take a moment to pause and think for a second. Remember, you taking a moment to think about your response shows thoughtfulness. It shows that you give consideration to your words and that you're going to be less likely to be one of those individuals that haphazardly do things and just make rash decisions without considering what the potential outcomes or consequences may be. So I love that. And I'm glad that you did that so people can see that it's okay to take a moment to think about it. Because what happens is human nature. There's this monkey see, monkey do thing where if we see someone do something, we tend to follow along and we replicate the behavior that they demonstrated instead of understanding what our approach needs to be and doing it our way. So get comfortable with that as well. And for me, it reminded me of being at my great grandmother's house growing up as a child. She had the tin roof, the wood house. I mean, there's like wood planks, no insulation or any of that. So it's like you got the wood and then you got outside. That's what she lived in. And it reminded me of being in her living room. Well, I don't even know if you call it a living room because there was the living room with the bed in it, in the living room right across from the fire. And on the other side was another room. So it was just 2 bedrooms and a kitchen. But that's where it took me back to. That's what I felt when I listened to you, Ingrid. And it sounded as if you weren't even speaking about yourself. It's like your grandchild could be sitting on your lap and you are giving them an analogy of who they are using someone else's name. And it was really compelling, and it pulled me in to feel what you felt, because it was genuine, and it felt like you really feel that about yourself. And it's important that you do. And that's for everyone. You need to feel the specialness about who you are and not be ashamed of it and own it. Own it. Own it, own it, own it. Because that's part of what makes you special, when you're comfortable being who you are. And when you think about some children that are brilliant kids and they're around other kids who aren't as brilliant as they are, because some kids are just gifted. And when they're around children that aren't gifted, they will fail grades, they'll fail classes and don't do great work because they don't want to make the other kids feel bad or they don't want to be teased. So they're ashamed of their greatness. So I say to you as adults, do not be ashamed of your greatness. Do not be ashamed of what makes you special. Own it and allow it to add value to the world, because God blessed you with your greatness and your gifts for a reason, so that you could share them with other people and put smiles on their faces to open doors of opportunity for someone else's life. So walk in your greatness and be who you are. And even if someone decides to come to you and say, you know what, honestly, I think you should stop doing that. Stop saying you're great or stop showing your greatness. Then you just honestly say, thank you. I appreciate that. And you walk away, because you know that's probably someone that doesn't really mean you any good. So own your greatness, everyone. Thank you for that, Ingrid. That was awesome. That was awesome. So let's go now over to David. So David, are you ready, sir?
Yeah, what up, Tim? I am always ready, brother. I raised my hand for a question, but I'm down for the challenge because I love challenges. So
You
let's
have
see.
what you wanted to ask a question?
Yeah, but that was probably like 15 minutes ago, so it's all good. So don't worry about. Yeah, I'm happy to do the challenge now.
I
So
tell you what.
Tell me what it is.
I tell you what, since you have a question, because we'll always make time for questions, because it may be information that comes from that could be helpful for everyone else. So what was the question you wanted to ask?
So the question, when you were talking about honesty, so it was a long. So here's an example. There's a guy at my gym. We're doing a group of us are doing a Ironman race in September, and I was talking to him. I think it was on Monday, and at the end of the conversation, he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna go sign up." He's like, "I'm in. I'm gonna sign up." I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, oh yeah, I'm all in. I'm gonna go sign up today." And so we texted each other, and and I haven't seen him. I kind of figured he never signed up because he didn't say anything. And then I ran into him again today, and I was asking him what's going on, and he was like, "Oh well, bikes are expensive and all this other stuff." And it just kind of got me thinking, like, would you consider that honesty, or is that something like to me? It's like, okay, if somebody, here's the way I'm going to handle that. I'm going to say either yes, no, or let me get some more information on it. I'm not just going to say yes, I'm going to sign up. But that's just me. So I'm just kind of curious to hear your thoughts on that type of a response.
So what I understand from that, the question that comes to mind for me is, you invited someone to participate in an Ironman race with a group of guys from the gym, and you're wondering how he should have responded to that question or responded to that invitation to participate. Is that fair?
Church, and my pastor was talking about it. So he said he's going to sign up. We talked, and he's like, you know what, it sounds amazing. I'm going to do it.
And
then he left and didn't do it and didn't respond. So again, do you consider that? All right, so I'm just like, is this an honest person, or is that just something not even really to worry about, right?
So I would say that this is a scenario where, when we talked about some of the misconceptions about honesty, and that it's always easy, because honesty isn't always easy for people. And I know for me personally, if someone gives me an invitation to do something, I'm trying to get some details. I need to understand when it is, how much does it cost, who's paying for it, what is expected of me in order to be a part of that. And I get those details, and it sounds like he didn't get those details. And those are questions we need to ask, so that we have an understanding of what we're getting into before we make a commitment to something. And that doesn't necessarily mean that he's a liar and that he isn't a good person, but he probably doesn't, potentially, because I don't know exactly why. And there could be different reasons for different people why they would do what he did. But he may not want to get left out. He may not want to feel as though people don't think he has the ability to do what you all are doing. He may feel, who knows, a number of different reasons that make him uncomfortable, saying, man, I don't think I can do it, because he wants to fit in. And it doesn't necessarily make him a bad person. It's just an uncomfortable situation. And in an environment like that, or in that type of circumstance, when I recognize that, I try to make it comfortable and easy for them to back out. I try to create an easy out for them to say, hey, man, you know what? I get it. Don't feel pressure, because I know this thing, it can cost some money. And I know first time I did it, I saved up for however long, and it may not be the right time, and that's okay. We're going to do it again. So don't worry if you can't do it this time. We got you. We'll go win it for you, and we'll celebrate together when it's over. But don't feel pressure. So make it easy for him to be able to back out and not be uncomfortable, and as though he's putting himself on the spot, to just simply be honest and say, I can't afford it. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, so I like your perspective. I think that's a really good perspective. And I did. I mean, we ended a conversation on a great note today, and I even said, hey, if it's just the bike, maybe we can see if we can find some used ones. Whatever I can do, I'm here for you. No pressure. But it did get me thinking. Like, hey, is how many other areas of his life is he just agreeing to do things or participate in things where he's actually not moving forward? So it's interesting that happened, because things like that happen all the time, Tim, like every day. But I never really thought of it from that perspective. And then here we are in this room having this conversation. So it was just something that was on my mind. But so that's why I asked it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation. That's why the conversations we have is because I want people to recognize that there are different perspectives and different ways of looking at these scenarios, and get beyond just the surface of what's easy to see, what's easily recognizable, because if we dig a little bit, you never know what kind of gold you may find. And he more than likely is experiencing that same thing in other areas of his life. So, Brenda, I see your hand.
I would like to submit to this conversation that I once dated a man that I would flat out tell him, no information. I don't want to encourage you to lie. I try to, just don't even waste my time. It's okay. So sometimes you have to reach out to that person. Like Tim already said, give them an out. Of course, not that cynically, but yeah, give them an out. Don't hold people's feet to the fire. And when you get people that are making plans like that, because it happened to me and I know that it's happened to others, I don't want to build long-term relationships with people like that, because they are not stable, in my opinion. Their word is not their bond. So it's okay. They can be who they are, but just know moving forward, those people are, they're just not trustworthy.
Yeah, and that's a great perspective. He may not necessarily be a bad person, but he may give you responses that you can't trust, as Brenda said. So something to be aware of, and that's why we have to intentionally observe people over time. Don't make a decision because you hear someone say some clever things or some beautiful comments in a space or in one or two environments. You need to pay attention over time to make sure that it's consistent. That's truly who they are, and that it doesn't change based on the circumstances or the people that they're around. So great point, Brenda, with that. And David, I won't push you into the challenge. So we got the question answered. So what I'll do is, I think
I'll do the challenge, Tim. I have no issues if you want me to.
So, no,
issues at all.
no, it's fine.
I love challenges.
I know you're comfortable with it. So, and you wanted to ask that question.
All right.
Yeah.
No doubt. All right. That's fine. All right, brother. Thank you.
Okay. Brother E. Well, before we go to Brother E, now, Dave, if you want to do the challenge, do you want to do the challenge, or were you just doing it because?
Well, so in all honesty, I did raise my hand. I raised my hand originally, asked the question, and then I was into the challenge. But yeah,
okay,
I kind of do want to do the
challenge. Let's do it.
Now,
okay,
so.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay.
And the reason let me show everyone. This is a teachable moment here. Did anyone recognize the tone in David's voice when I was saying, "Don't worry about the challenge." See, in his tone, in my mind, in my heart, his tone said to me that he actually did want to do the challenge, but he was trying to be considerate of the time and willing to let us just move forward. So those are the details and the nuances that as confident and effective communicators, we're paying attention to. And that's why I went back to just make sure, hey man, you can do the challenge. Let's do the challenge. Because that's what was coming across for me, the discernment. And he wasn't going to cry if he didn't do the challenge, but he wanted to do it. So, David, so your random topic is going to be family values. Family values.
Yep. Yeah. Love that. So what I just talked to Tim for 2 minutes, is that the challenge?
60 seconds, and then there's a chime at 45 seconds, and then another chime at 60 seconds when it's time to end.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you. All right, you let me know when to start.
Whenever you're ready.
All right, so I just presented to a group of 100 local business owners on Thursday. The first slide in my presentation showed a picture of my family, my 3 daughters, my 3 grandchildren. And anytime I present to a group, I always start with that slide first because I want them to realize that family comes first to me. It is the most important thing. It's why I get up every morning so early, work so hard so that I can spend time with my family. We can take the vacations because I never had that as a kid. Okay, my father was an alcoholic. My father was abusive. I went through a lot. So I've been able to change that for my kids. I have a talk called Broken Chains. So to me, family values is critical. It's what I live for. And I am just super, super grateful that I'm able to be an amazing dad. And I learned from all the challenges I went through as a kid to provide for my family.
Nice, nice. Well, what's your take on that? How do you feel about the response?
I feel it was good, but I feel it was a little rushed just because of the minute. But yeah, I feel overall, I think it was an easy thing for me to talk about because it's important to me.
Absolutely. So I think Mama B and then Brenda. You want to give feedback?
Yes, yes, that was beautiful, David. Family values, and I could tell from the your energy how much your family just means to you. Even when you slowed down or emphasized when you said family comes first to me. I mean, I could feel that from your heart. And then you said it's what I live for. You know, just those small, sounds like small, just little things and techniques in our voice, how we use our voice, but they're so impactful. And I was really struck by the power in your voice, you know, and your pitch. And yeah, I hear you saying that it was a little rushed, and I did think that, because what I thought was not that I couldn't hear you, I could hear everything, but I just thought, wow, this is just so good. I wonder how much more impactful it would sound if he was just a little slower. But again, it is not because I didn't hear you. It was just like I'm thinking, wow, what would have been an extra sauce to this already good presentation? So I really love that, David. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Great point. Brenda, go ahead.
Well, first off, this is an honor. Who am I? This is an absolute honor to be giving you feedback, David. And I want you to know, I thought I heard a tear toward the end. You've been talking about this for a long time. Beautiful.
So we're going to give David a moment to share. Did she hear a tear or not? And it's okay if she did.
No, I don't think it got to that. I mean, maybe I don't. You know what? That's a great point. It may have, because that's how passionate I am about it.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest with you, I don't want to get too deep into this, but 15 years ago was probably the first time I cried, and I didn't cry for 25 years of my life because of my childhood. So it was not an easy thing to do, but when it happened, it happens. So that's how important my three daughters, my grandchildren, my wife is to me. So thank you for saying that.
Thank you for saying what you said, and I will agree with her. I felt that as well toward the end. There was a point where it hit you a little more deeply toward the end than in the beginning, but it was clear and obvious to me how important family values are to you, and that it's something near and dear to you. And I love the way that you utilized the experience with the presentation and then still made it personal beyond the presentation as well. And I commend you for sharing that and allowing yourself to allow others to see that it's okay. Because some men, this machoism that men aren't supposed to cry. And I mean, if something strikes you deeply, moves you deeply, that's part of being human. Men have emotions just like women. And that doesn't mean we cry every time something goes bad or something goes wrong. But there are things that strike us. When our daughter would dance and perform, she's a dancer. And growing up, I mean, when she would be up there in front of the church dancing or wherever she was performing, I'm sitting there, with a little tear in my eye because I'm proud and excited and happy to see her doing what she enjoyed. And that's part of being a man, part of being a dad, to demonstrate the full scope of who we are as people. And our families need to see that. And that allows them to be there for us on a deeper level when they understand that we experience that full range of emotions the way that they do. Because I'll say this, when my wife's mother passed away, she struggled with that. This was years ago. And she had such a strong demeanor on the outside that I missed the signs that she was really struggling on the inside because I didn't see it on the outside. And that's why it's important for us to be willing to share what we experience and what we feel so people know to come help us, to come give us that hug we may need when we're struggling with something. It's okay. My wife has seen me cry. I'm not ashamed to say that I've cried or that I cry. I mean, I'll tear up watching some movie sometimes or seeing little video clips of parents with their kids because I connect with the moment. I connect with the emotion, and God has just given me this, I don't even know if I would call it an ability, but when I hear someone say something that's coming from a deep place in their heart, I feel it. It's like it transfers to me. So their excitement or their pain, I feel it just the way that they do. So that emotion transfers. So it happens with movies as well. So thank you, David, for doing that, sir. Mama B, go ahead.
Oh my goodness, I really respect men who can cry because, God gave us the tear ducts for a reason. There's a reason we have those tear ducts. So yes, keep crying, people. Keep crying, men, because it's unfortunate that we teach our boys that men don't cry. That's just a nonsense. I'm sorry. But anyway, I just wanted to say, David, that, it just goes to show how just one little detail just takes a presentation to another level. What you said there after Brenda said what she noted about maybe a little, you were moved and you gave us that 25 years. You had 25 years of not crying. You cried for the first time 15 years ago. That one detail, man, took your presentation that already made me connect to you. It just lit a fire in me. It ignited that extra thing. So I just learned there that I tell you, go there in your presentation, your speeches, where you feel uncomfortable. That's where you should go. I'm just talking generally. That's what it taught me. Just go to where it's uncomfortable, because the more personal you go, the more universal what you're saying, you'll find out that it touches more people than you realize. So thank you, David, for being vulnerable. Yeah, I'm done. Thank you, Jim.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I love the pace, the pitch, and all of that. Just the way you presented it overall, I thought was great. And you made it very personal, and you took everyone on the journey. So great job, and kudos to you. So what I'll do is, so it's 1:24, and if we have, so Brother E, do you want to do the challenge now, or would you want to wait till next week? Because if we do it now, then we will. I don't want to rush through your feedback because you may have follow-up questions, but we can try to squeeze it in, or if you want, we can do it next week. I'll let you decide.
Thank you, Tim. I was actually not up for the challenge. I was just resonating with the topic today. So when I dived in, I thought maybe I should say something and answer a question.
Got it. Yeah. So what we did was at 12:30ish, maybe 12:45, because we allowed the final speakers to share their thoughts because they were already up. We transitioned to the skills lab so we can make sure we get some of the practice in. And that's something that we'll probably be doing going forward is make time for the skills lab each week. And that's what we're doing now at this point toward the end. So what we can do, if you don't mind, if you can post a quick summary, a synopsis or the bullet points of what you were going to share in the chat, that way we can still see what you were going to contribute and everyone will be able to know what you said. So I really appreciate that. And the reason I'm doing that is because we're getting to a place now, everyone. So this year, it's about discipline. And for me, it's also integrity. You know, if we say we're going to do something, my dad always told me, do what you say you're going to do. If you say you're going to do it, make sure you do it. And we have done a great job so far this year of getting out of here right at 1:30. And that's what I'm trying to focus on. And sometimes we have to do some things, make some decisions that aren't always comfortable, but it's right. And at the end of the day, it demonstrates to everyone that's watching that we're doing what we say. So that's why we're gonna wait, and that's why we didn't bring those that have their hands up requesting to speak, because we knew the time was already near the end. So we definitely want to hear from you. But if you don't mind, please come back and join us next week, or share your thoughts about today's topic in the chat, so we can see that and people can engage with it. But I will go ahead and say, Mama B, you have a final thought before we go, and then Brenda.
Just that this was such a beautiful, as usual, a beautiful space, and thank you everyone for coming up and sharing so generously. Thank you, Brenda, for flying with me. And I'm so impressed that we are now ending at 1:30. And bravo, Tim, bravo, you're able to teach us how to do this. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm done.
Thank you, Mama B. Brenda, go ahead.
Okay, I saw Grace's hand up really quickly, but we are closing, Grace. I am so sorry. 2 words today that I'm going to take away is intention and discernment. Why are people telling us what they're telling us? Do they care about us? Or are they trying to start trouble? Discernment and intention. Consider the source. Thank you all for coming and have a great rest of the weekend.
Nicely done. I feel like I'm getting off of a Delta flight now. So thank you both, Brenda and Mama B, for co-hosting today and doing what we do to try to hold it down for the confident speaking community. And I absolutely appreciate all of you being here today. Your presence is valued because I know you don't have to be here, but you choose to spend time with us as we're all growing together. And I want to say thank you to all of those of you that are listening. We've got Rose, Sherry, Olu, we got Lazolia, Dan, Hakeem, Abubakar, Mohammed, Christy, Josh, Ethanos, Aries, Eunice, Endless Days of Summer. We also have Joshua, Jason, Nicolay, Nigmatic, Annette, Mabo. We've got Swerving, Bella, Elixir, Thobella, Linda, Lilu, Annette. We've got Fod Wizzy. We also have Mamadou, Nasabi. We have the Owls Watch, Tumi, Noel, Nika, Salorm. We have Kathy, Ahlam, Harun, Anna, Celine, Cindy, and Beverly Foote. So thank you all for listening in. And for those that were requesting to speak, I appreciate you requesting to speak. We just really are trying to nail down this time so that we can get people in and get people out, so you can understand that this is what we're doing and how we do it. And you'll be surprised how much people respect and appreciate timeliness. When we do things that way, it just takes everything to a different level. The discipline and establishing standards. And when you set standards of behavior for yourself in your life, other people will rise to those standards that you set. And this is me trying to model that behavior for all of us and forcing myself to do it as well for myself. And we're doing it here live in public for everyone to see. So we're all growing together. So I pray you all have a fantastic rest of the day or night or morning, depending on where you are in the world. And remember, keep practicing. Thank you for joining today's episode of the Confident Speaking Space. Your contributions as a speaker and your presence listening live or on the replay are greatly appreciated. If you enjoyed the experience and want to show some love, feel free to visit the link on my profile and buy me a coffee. Until we meet again, I pray you have a fantastic week ahead. So be blessed, be safe, and be intentional about becoming a more confident and effective communicator. Let's get it. We're gonna go.